So good morning, everybody. It is Tuesday, July 28th. We have a theme song. It's my own private little joke, so if you get it, you get it. But before we dive into anything, we're going to let Miss King say good morning.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Tuesday. But what does a Tuesday even mean? What does 9 o'clock even mean? Welcome and thank you for joining us this morning on the Charles Patton Live from Millbrook High School morning show. And Charles, thank you for that theme song. We do get that the title is, does anybody really know what time it is? And so if you do know what time it is, good. And for some of you who are, who remember back in the day, that brought back a lot of good memories from Chicago. Tuesdays are principal meeting days. So at 9 o'clock this morning, I will be running off to another laptop to get that one plugged in. And then we have a high school principals meeting from 10 to 11 this morning. So those are always packed agendas as Wake County unpacks what this next school year is going to look like to our best guess. What I'm really excited about is Thursday afternoon from 3 to 5. We're having a northern area principals meeting, but the whole agenda is special education. And I've had so many questions about implementing IEPs, having all the meetings, the behavior plans, self-contained instructional assistants. I was in with Ms. Wilson yesterday afternoon. I'm trying to answer some questions that you all had regarding your child's IEP and implementation. So I'm hoping to get some answers. The Assistant Superintendent over Special Education Services, Karen Hamilton, will be the facilitator for that meeting. So wish us luck that we can get some concrete ideas, plans, and recommendations in place so that when we kick off the school year, every child's needs are all met. We thank you for joining us this morning. I see some familiar names coming up. Good to see you. And right now I'm going to turn it back to Charles Patton. You may notice we're in the large conference room in student services, and he wanted to make sure that you could see everything behind us is our big old master schedule, which in other words, we call it a puzzle, but it's color coded. So it's kind of easy to figure out. And we're trying to make the best decisions for the virtual academy versus face-to-face and online at Millbrook High School. So welcome, and I'm turning it back over to Charles.
Yeah, so really the key is that every single little magnetic tile you see up there has to get moved around. But that process is starting today. Happy Tuesday. Let's see what's going on. I'm getting the good, not quite Saturday in the Park, Miss Crute. That is, that whole album really, is it Chicago 10? I think it's Chicago 10. It's got to be my favorite album. Before they changed guitar players and they got a little weird in like the 80s. That's a good album too. I have that one. If we do an evening update, I'll be sure to put Chicago in the background. Blur's Day. That's the best comment I've seen in months. Okay, a few parents and I are trying to find the answer to this. So we all start online with Transition Plan B. But we heard it is up to schools when the in-person cohort begins, which is new. Ms. King and I both went, ooh, like in our best Al from Home Improvement voice.
We haven't even had it confirmed whether there's 2 cohorts or 3 cohorts. That's still apparently up in the air. Up until 2 or 3 weeks ago, we heard that the district would establish our cohorts and divide the students in face-to-face into groups of 3. Well, starting a couple of weeks ago, they said, well, it might be 2. So I don't know where your friends are getting their information, but that has not trickled down to the school level yet.
So all of that is to say, yeah, the only thing that I have seen in print, and I can point everybody to this. If you go to the board meeting from last week, was there a board meeting last week? You can go see that on YouTube. And our understanding is what they presented was definitely 2 weeks. On September 8th, they will consider transitioning some regional programming back. Everything else is up for reevaluation with no timeline. I actually believe, as as it was coming out on Twitter and they were keeping track of what school systems were doing what, Wake County was the first one to say, we're going virtual and we're going to wait until we evaluate the numbers before we make a decision. We're not going to commit to 6 weeks or 9 weeks. So that's all the official information that I feel comfortable saying. I have not heard that it's a school decision. What they may be confusing is that in that first 2 weeks, we were originally told that the first 2 weeks are going to be orientation and meet and greet. And I think most of our reaction was like, we will probably start instruction earlier than that as best we can. But that does not mean the on-site thing. So that might be some confusion there. I think there might be some play for schools to decide when instruction begins in that 2 week orientation window.
Yes, and our belief was that high school kids don't need 2 weeks of a meet and greet, except for our incoming freshmen. You know, our kids have been here. They've been to Millbrook. They know some of the teachers and some of the staff, and won't have that many questions. And I feared, frankly, that they would be bored if we're just getting these get to know you things for 2 weeks, and then might not even show up. So we're gonna dive in as quickly as we can after the teachers onboard each of their classes and set expectations and introduce the curriculum, and then we're gonna roll. And I think that's what kids want, and I think that's what families want. They want us to do what we do best.
So I'm hoping that helped a little bit. New numbers for MHS Virtual Academy. So we probably won't, I don't think they updated them yesterday. Like, it's not like a rolling thing. I don't think they're going to give us any changes until tomorrow evening. One thing I should clarify from yesterday is somebody asked the question about the number of students in the diploma program. And I said, 70s, high 70s for seniors, mid 80s for juniors. That was for the whole diploma program enrollment. That's not Virtual Academy numbers. We have less than 10 diploma program students in the Virtual Academy, just so that we're clear on that. We were at 840 or something like that at the end of the first virtual window. Miss Kingley's were at 910. If I had to put a quarter on a thing, you know, I think we end up at about 1,000 in the end. I cannot share the VA breakdown by grade. I can tell you that the junior class was the lowest Virtual Academy enrollment. Freshmen and sophomores were the highest Virtual Academy enrollment. And it was like something along the lines of 250, 200, 150, and then again, like 250 or 200 for seniors. So yeah, that's the DP stuff regarding IB. We will be working on gathering some more specific diploma program questions from diploma program families. We've gotten a lot of questions. I've gotten a lot of emails, and Mr. Barron is out this week. But we're getting a lot of questions about IAs and extended essays and all the like very specific diploma program functions. And some of that we can't really begin to problem solve with the DP faculty until we know what the master schedule looks like. But we will probably be we will be gathering questions from families. Mr. Barron and I will work on getting answers to those, and we're going to set up something like a Google Meet for DP families or something like this for DP families as well. So Ms. King has stepped out. I'm not sure she'll be back, but I'll do my best to answer this question. The question is, can the county override MHS's decision to shorten the 2 week orientation? And what date would students be returning to MHS? Is it prior to the week of 9/8? The county, and it's important to understand that mechanism, the county would make a recommendation to the board and the board would decide a thing. The board could opt to shorten. Oh, can the county override MHS? Oh, I see what you're saying now, that 2 week orientation. I'm not sure about that dynamic, which is why you heard me sort of waffling about to our best extent. But what we know from academics and the folks in central office who are working to support schools is they sort of recognize the imperfect nature of creating a one size fits all for everybody. And they recognize that like local school by school teams are going to have to make some decisions. So I would argue I feel pretty confident that there would be some play there, but I can definitely also understand the district saying, here's the baseline expectation, and if you're going to do this, then make sure the considerations are made for that. What date would students be returning? Students returning to Millbrook High School is 100% a Board of Education decision. I can't see a world where it's site-based for students being back on campus, because so much of that is built into the working with emergency management and DHHS and things like that that are way over my head. Let me check Twitter real quick, because I know there's some people who can't access the Facebook chat, and I promised that I would look for questions on Twitter. Seems like right now we're doing okay. Is there going to be real work the first 2 weeks, or is it just going to be meet and greet? So that's actually a good thing to talk about. So when we start real work in the first 2 weeks, I anticipate us starting real work. Everything that you experienced in the spring. So we'll phrase like this, right? Like we got out of school on March 13th. We got guidance from central office maybe 10 days later about when we would start new instruction. And that, I believe, was April 13th. It was the Monday after spring break. And the guidance that was given at that point was teachers should post weekly assignments. Teachers should not require synchronous learning for grades. Grading was pretty up in the air. There were a lot of like, you have to give kids room to make up X, Y, and Z. Can't hold kids accountable for grades after. It was weird. There was a lot of things regarding grading that didn't make that a robust learning experience for kids, because it was just managing learning in a crisis. Things we already know this year are that teachers are going to post work daily. There will be some like consistent synchronous offering. Again, students in Plan Alphabet who are remote, now that we're in Plan Transition, Plan B, every student is at home receiving remote instruction, and that is expected to be 2 to 3 hours of live time available to students. Once students come back to the hybrid here for a week, home for 2 weeks, the live instruction and remote learning will be 5 hours per week. And again, we're a long way from knowing what that schedule might look like. But honestly, as soon as we have it, we're going to put it out there. So anyway, when we start work, it will be real work. I believe everybody here wants to start sooner than 2 weeks. And we believe that the district would support us in that, so long as that we've communicated things and can verify that we have students connected appropriately. I thought Virtual Academy was going to be for a semester. It can be for a semester. You know, during this window, if you signed up for a semester, you can opt to sign up for the year. Virtual Academy is guaranteed to exist all year for students and families that want a guaranteed consistent experience and don't have to wade the waters of Plan B transition, maybe Plan B, maybe back to Plan C, maybe Plan B, maybe Plan A. There's certainly some volatility built into that on-site piece. So if you commit to Virtual Academy, you're either in there all semester or you're in there all year. You're guaranteed to get whatever you commit to now. If you commit to a semester of Virtual Academy, you can apply to stay in Virtual Academy midway through, but that will depend on the number of students. Again, it'll be local. It'll be us, our teachers, our staff managing those teams and those classes. So if at the semester break, a bunch of Virtual Academy kids opt to come back, that might change the availability of courses in the Virtual Academy for the spring, which might affect the VA enrollment for students who only committed to a semester from the beginning. if virtual academy teachers are teaching students from other schools with the decision to start academics earlier than 9-8B or regional, yeah, right. Like, so that's a pretty big consideration. At this point, I don't even know where we are with the potential of cohorts across schools. And we probably won't know that until, let's see, if we get the roster Wednesday evening, Thursday, maybe Friday, we'll start to piece out, oh, look, we can combine this with another school. But yeah, that would end up being a regional decision if they have a teacher from another school. Yes, Ms. Janeski, I believe that is correct. Yep. Man, this has gotten so easy because everybody answers the questions in the chat. Okay, so Ms. Bromfeld, let me go back to here. I thought the VA was going to be for a semester, DPS, WCPSS. Yeah, so if everyone goes back to school, back to in-school learning, and you have a handful of kids that are still in virtual academy, how is that going to work out? And again, part of that is we're supposed to have a listing of students who have registered for the full year so that we can accommodate them. And again, students who apply to stay in, that's a situation where if we have a bunch of students apply to stay in the virtual academy, we might very well keep supporting that. And again, like that's just a moving target as things develop, which is by far the hardest part of this whole thing. Schools don't really function well on iterative development. We're really big on plan. Here's the program, execute, evaluate at the end. But Ms. Bromfeld, you raise a good point. It's if there's a handful of kids that are still virtual academy, we have to meet that need. And at this point right now, a lot of that burden's fallen on teachers. And so we're scrambling, trying to make sure that we as administrators can handle as much of the odd paperwork and decision making so that they can just have time to plan and work together and to be there for their students. Hey, Ms. Hardis, did you order the transcript through Wake County's online site? Let me know in the chat. Yeah. Okay. So if you signed up for Virtual Academy all year, our job is to honor that. Counselors will be back in school next week. Yes, and they will be quite literally dropped into a moving train. This is going to be a pretty heavy week in the land of like really galvanizing things to move forward and make decisions. I believe they're in next week. Let me see if I can clarify with Miss Midget real quick. We'll see what she says. Sorry, I don't get signal in my office, so you might have heard like every text in the world I've gotten this morning coming in at one time. Okay, I can make a note to check on those. My biggest concern is the social aspect and meeting new classmates. So this is a really big talking point that I think it's important that we keep talking about, because many of us recognize, and you're hearing it come out from different groups here and there about the need of students to have that social interaction. But, one thing that is very new is how many of our students have social interactions via digital platforms already, right? Like I can tell you from personal experience that lunchtime is kind of nice for a little bit because while kids are eating, they're talking to each other. But as soon as everybody's done eating,
yep, they're on the phones.
So, as much as those of us that grew up in an analog world, I mean, I'm technically a millennial. I'm like the oldest millennial. But those of us that grew up in this sort of digital age or in the analog age, you know, I went out with my friends and played basketball until it was dark, and then mom yelled at me to come inside. Our students are already having different social interactions and having different social needs met in really different ways. I am not qualified to talk about the psychology or impact of that, but Wake County has 100% recognized that in this new digital platform, the role of and ways that teachers communicate and connect with kids and create space for them to connect with each other is critical. And, you know, we should never make assumptions about, oh, they're good with technology because they're a kid. But at some point, we do know that there's a model for kids having meaningful, sometimes it gets out of hand, but they have meaningful interactions socially online. You know, a large portion of my job is dealing with kids saying mean things online. But I understand your concern for the social aspect and meeting new classmates. Even on site during Plan B, it's not going to feel like your regular, yay, we're all here together. I mean, it's going to be pretty utilitarian. It's not going to be gross and quiet where we're like, sit there, don't talk, blah, blah, blah. But it's just going to be harder. There's going to be 7 to 12 kids in a classroom. You know, there are going to be lots of restrictions in the hallways. Kids aren't going to be able to sit and hang out. You know, it's not like we picture these high school movies like Clueless or 10 Things I Hate About You, where these kids walk into school at the beginning of the day and there's kids hanging out everywhere. That's sort of real, and that's unfortunately probably not going to be able to happen this year, at least for a while. So I think that's something that we all as adults are going to be learning together, is how to support our students socially in this remote platform. If students opt for virtual academy, do they still pick up freshman folders on 8.6 and 8.7? Yep, sure do. Bring them on. Will the guest services window take return to textbooks? Yes. Also, there's no way to check OSP for any fees, and we need to do this before applying for parking. Email, you know what? I'll put a thing on the website, but you can email Miss Miller. Let me pull up her email. If she's here, maybe she can drop it in the chat. K. Nelson Miller, all one word. K. Nelson Miller at WCPSS.net. Sorry if I blow your email up, Miss Miller, but I feel pretty good about the fact I think you sent me an email saying, hey, you should direct all those questions to me. So we'll try and get you set up with her to ask about OSP stuff. If a student signs up for Virtual Academy fall only, are they guaranteed to be able to return to Plan Alpha in the spring? If they sign up for fall only, our understanding is that they are guaranteed to come back to Plan B in the spring. What is not guaranteed is if you want to then apply to stay in the Virtual Academy, that's not guaranteed. If you sign up for the fall, you come back in the spring, my understanding is that is guaranteed. English 9 team has some idea. Of course they do. The English 9 team is one of the smartest groups in this building. Yeah, and so to piggyback on what Ms. Janeski is saying about socially connecting with kids, teachers are going to work. We've already had a lot of teachers asking about, hey, can we take time to have one-on-one meetings with parents and kids just to say hi? You know, so the teachers are prioritizing that real connection. And I have to fly through these because we've got to get ready for the principals meeting. So last call for questions. Let me check Twitter real quick. No questions on Twitter. So here we go. Kim Stein, you can try that. I'm not sure that it will help. Thanks, Ms. Miller. That's outstanding. Yeah, we hit 101, 105. I'm feeling good. I was a little sad yesterday. I was like, oh man, we're away from, yeah, right. We've got to come with new content, which we'll work on new content. People got tired of hearing about my calendars. I was always told school was for learning, not for socializing. They can socialize after school. Oh, Fast Times at Ridgemont High. That's a classic. Every year I find a new freshman who is just in my brain Spicoli. There's always one. They always have long hair. They always look like a surfer, which makes me laugh because we're landlocked here. Most kids and families have comfort in a schedule and structure. Seems the challenging part is waiting and doing the change each day. Yeah, that's true. One thing that we can share is that, you know, we will definitely be communicating what that schedule will look like week to week to week. And
Thanks, Marla.
I'm going to turn that computer down for a hot minute. But all of that is just to say, we will do our best to help students understand the structure, and it will be much more structure than it was last spring. And that's why we've been talking about planners. We really want and feel like students will benefit from learning to use those in this environment. No, you're fine. You're fine. I have keys to open other rooms in the building. I don't know why people trust me with this whole pile of keys, but okay. Shout out to Mr. Barron. I'm stealing your office. Yes, you should still apply for parking. All of those details are on the website. Additionally, while we're talking about the website, Miss Barnes has asked me to pitch our academic boot camp. Our student services do a really amazing job of putting some resources together to get students exposed to practice ACTs, as well as test-taking strategies and study strategies for AP exams and AP courses. That information is on the website, should be on the front page. There are some links on the right-hand side of the photos, and it says Virtual Academic Boot Camp, and there's a ton of information there. Check that out. Would you like for us to return MHS library books to guest services or hold on to them? You can hold on to them for now. I don't even have anybody here to check them in. We have piles and piles of books in the cafeteria for right now, so just hang on. There's no rush on those. Yes, still apply for parking. Ms. Sparks, I appreciate your perspective and graciousness. Will there be clubs later this year? Boy, do I hope so. Please hold on. Return textbooks if you are applying for parking. Thanks, Ms. Miller. Good clarification. Do we need to do AP summer work? So, yeah, we're working on one, yes. We understand that students don't have schedules. We have had the conversation about ensuring students turn in fall AP assignments and spring AP assignments, and as soon as we can communicate that, we will. But the master schedule redo is going to frame a lot of that. Any thoughts on an MHS virtual open house? Yes, we're working on that. There are some security precautions we have to keep in mind with like videoing so much of the building, but we're certainly looking at a virtual open house, Mr. Kane. Any driver's ed updates? You can still sign up on the Jordan Driving School website. I believe the next class sign up actually might start in another week or so. I think they sign up start in August is what I have in my brain. If Miss Elstrom's in the chat, maybe she can drop some info. I'll try and get some of that on the website too. How do we know if we should do AP summer work if we don't know? Yeah, that's the $1 million question. Let me ask Ms. Midget that and see what info we can get you for tomorrow. Okay, we're at 8:59. Let me check Twitter one last time. No Twitter questions. No email questions. All right. Any hope for athletics? You know, you have the added layer of a third-party moderating organization in the NCHSAA. Combine that with Wake County, and everything's a little back and forth. Right now, I don't believe there's an update. The marching band nerd in me is as heartbroken as our athletes are. Normally we only do like a new clubs and club application window in the fall. I can only imagine there will be grace for that, especially if we come back to Plan A at some point later this year. We're going to want kids to be connected. You know, going back to that whole idea of social connection, we're going to want kids to connect through clubs. I don't want to speak for what expectations Miss Wilson may build around that, so I will see if she can stop by or get some info from her. But we certainly know that the club piece is really critical for a lot of our students connecting. You know, I think about robotics, and that's the big one because they're always all over the hallway, like taking stuff apart. It's magic and science to me. So anyway, I hope you all have a wonderful day. I am going to go watch a very long webinar. Womp womp. Feel free to email me. Feel free to follow us on Twitter, Millbrook Magnet. You can follow me on Twitter, CharlesPA10. Shoot me an email question, cpatent2@wcpss.net. And that's it. You guys are awesome. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.